I mean, how do I describe it? It's
bold,
A light,
black,
unapologetically black,
very funny, amusing,
caring,
You give great advice from a different perspective. Passionate,
free.
vulnerable,
a creative,
sexy.
My girl is lit as fuck.
Always ready to twerk a little something.
genuine, very genuine,
resilient.
like sixth sense, otherworldly. If you know, you know.
it's so vibrant, baby. Hello, everyone, and welcome to So Vibrant, the place where music, history, and culture collide. I am your host, Lady AC, and we are in a new month. April is finally here, y'all, and I hope that you've had a great week. If not, hey, you are still here, you're still doing it, and you have another chance to do something better even tomorrow. So hey, just the fact that you still have this existence, that is enough. But I do understand how that can be difficult when we constantly are living in a world that constantly is making us have to measure up to these different standards. And then of course when we see what's going on in the worlds around us, and when I say worlds, I'm talking about, the different spaces that we live in, from our personal spaces to our communal spaces to, and once again, the world at large. We're seeing so many things happen that are making us question our ideologies and go through so many different changes. What is interesting is that everybody is doing that. On all sides are doing that. And for me, the best way to combat, or what I found a way of dealing with it, is through reflection. Back in season 1, I did an episode called Talking Shit with a Purpose. Really didn't have a theme of it, but the goal of it was to connect with one another in order to add to this world that we live in. But that gets lost when we continue to buy into things that want to destroy us and pull us even more apart. And I think it's about time to talk some more shit and mean what I say. So of course, today's episode is titled Talking Shit with a Purpose, Part 2, the self-reflection. After our musical break, we'll get right into today's episode. I'll be right back.
All that I've been through, it
And that was 320 with Let Me Grow. Ooh, I love that joint, y'all. I just got put onto that. If y'all heard the group called Van Jess, so that was them. So unfortunately, I want to say a year ago, Van Jess decided that it was these two twin sisters who were amazing artists, vocally just crazy, love them, but they decided to end because one of the sisters wanted to kind of back away from the music scene. Well, the one sister that still does music, this is her new song. She hooked up with her partner and they are creating music, R&B, 90s feel. But it has a little of that 2000s too, like neo soul kind of feel with it too. And her voice is just still amazing. But what I love about that song is how she talks about the different things that went on in her life that ultimately is leading her to basically make this plea of let me grow. Because this actually speaking to this yearning of wanting to get better and wanting to get through the different things that have affected her emotionally, mentally, physically, and growing into something better. Really going after the life that better version of herself deserves to live. In reflection of that, just looking at what's going on within myself, what has happened in my community, what is happening around the world around us, we're seeing that struggle play out. Of all of us are trying to make sense of the world that we are living in and really trying to shape how do we move through that? How do we move on from that? How do we even define it and talk about it? I will say we are seeing a lot more language about self-care, about community, about therapy, about boundaries, about, just being more self-aware and more emotionally available and emotional intelligence. Like all these different concepts that are very powerful for us to acknowledge. But once again, I do feel that is being co-opted by people who want us to stay in a state of confusion, stay in a state of uncertainty, stay in the fear and less willing to unact. Because in this particular case, this creator was talking about the Western us in the US especially, when it comes to the concept of wellness, especially when it's mental health and therapy, there is this very increased drive of talking about setting boundaries, and which is not wrong, especially if you are a person who is a reformed people pleaser. If you are a person who really cares about what people think, and a lot of people won't admit that, but I really do think a lot of us really do care, especially the people we love. We care about their opinions. We care about how the way we move are affected by them. Boundary setting is really letting ourselves know of how we choose to interact in relationship building and communication. But where I loved and connected with this creator about is how it seems that it's always one-sided when it comes to teaching that healthy connection, because they tend to push, setting boundaries. You got to set boundaries. You got to do that. And they lack telling people within setting boundaries that after you set those boundaries, how to repair based in using that boundary. Because the way where we live in talk about boundaries, we tend to focus boundaries as rules. And what happens when you put rules? What are rules? Rules are the laws that govern how we act, how we move, how we are supposed to show up in society, or in that case, but within relationships, how we show up within those spaces. And that controls the behavior of those people in that space. Whereas boundaries are the ways that you as the individual that set them are to move. But for so many times when we tell people to set boundaries, we think the people tend to set them in a way where they do it so they can control how other people would move with them. And you can't do that. Nobody wants to be around that person who feels they have to control everyone and everything and every minute and every second, because that causes chaos, that causes distractions, that causes abandonment. And I once again feel that is the by design of these systems that don't want us to come together and don't want us, like, in a way, is making us do its job for them by making our lives still individualistic, pushing people away. And like I said, self-isolating yourself. So once again, now you put up so many boundaries, now you're alone. Not realizing in setting those boundaries, you have to be willing to repair. And the concept of repairing in boundaries is being able to shape your relationships moving forward. How to communicate yourselves through those boundaries. Like, for instance, an easy one can be your job. You have to send emails. Let's say that. So your work hours are 9 to 5. Your boundary can be, I only answer emails between the hours of 9 and 5. Now, there are sometimes some people be hitting you up early, so they send you their email at 8:30 or at night or the day before, because they want to get ahead and they want to, have a crack on these things. You know the excuses, the things they say. So in response to somebody doing that, you let them know between them hours, hey, these are my personal hours that I understand. If it truly is urgent, how about this? You communicate with me in this way, saying, hey, well, okay, look, I get this was important. I get it, but once again, my hours are between this and this, and that's how I protect my mental space. So that way, when I come into work between these hours, I'm able to tackle these things. But when I break away, that's my time to decompress. That's my time to function. That's my time to move. But if something is that important, let's come up with a different way of being able to communicate that without having to violate this boundary that I set. Having that conversation and saying that in response to that, that's the repair. But how many people know that? How many people are redirected to think that? Now, if they still pin the pushing line, because there are people who just push that line, then you move accordingly. But in most cases, when you have that repair, that helps you be able to navigate that. In a way of speaking, that kind of reminds me of back in the episode I did last week of the Sister Circle about when my friend talked about when she set boundaries, she was losing a friend, but when she allowed the universe to choose her and she chose it back, that she started to align with people who truly showed up and were able to respect their boundaries and able to give that repair. In that sense, that was how to repair words. It's like you allow those boundaries to set a foundation, but you repair by allowing yourself to still be open to be received by the right people for you. Her openness allowed her to connect with people, because sometimes the danger of just setting boundaries is that people, then they close themselves off. That boundary becomes a wall. It becomes a barrier, honestly. So her repair was she was still welcoming of having the right people come to her. So it is definitely possible to do both, but you cannot have one without the other. Another thing I'm seeing, especially when we look at the world stage and our political climate, you're starting to see a lot of people talk about fascism, especially with what this administration doing and the different rights and the different minority groups that are affected by what's going on. What we are witnessing is absolutely crazy. Absolutely tough. Should not happen, but I've said this on some episodes ago as well, that a lot of what we're seeing, the groundwork for this was been laid out. Like, it's very interesting how the concept of fascism is being brought up when the truth is fascism has been here this whole time. Basically, fascism is far right form of government where the country's power is controlled by either one person, a small group, or one party, dealing to use dictator leadership, militarism, or forcible suppression or oppression in order to rule or govern. Like, it's very interesting how everybody is so aware or so alert to fascism like it has not been here before. Wasn't it fascism during the whole civil rights era? Like Jim Crow and the segregation and the violence. Under the same definition, wasn't it fascism? What happened during the enslavement of African people brought to the Americas wasn't everything that they went through, the horrible working conditions, the scraps that we got, the beatings, the violence, the whippings, the sexual assaults, the breeding camps, the tortures, all that. Wasn't that fascism? The causes for the Great Migration after slavery ended. The Red Summer, where they were just going through all these black towns and just lynching people at random or barging into their houses and taking what they wanted, destroying whole cities like Atlanta and Rosewood and Tulsa, all these places. Wasn't that fascism? Through all those different wars where they destroyed, oust out indigenous people of their lands, constantly breaking the many treaties they kept doing, using incredible violence to get rid of them, to destroy their existence. The Trail of Tears, wasn't that fascism? Killing Malcolm X, killing Martin Luther King, killing Fred Hampton, killing like all of them, and all the political prisoners that are, some of them are still in jail now. Isn't that fascism? And I'll actually bring it more current. Philadelphia, that bombing that happened of the movement, wasn't that fascism? I'll bring it even current than that. I'll bring it up even more. Ferguson, to this day, the way they disenfranchise, bomb, and use incredible military violence against people protesting what happened to Mike Brown. There are activists that went missing and later found dead, or a lot of those activists that, if I remember that iconic picture of the activist throwing the tear, he had these long locks and he was throwing the tear gas that the militarized police had thrown into a crowd of children. And he was throwing it back, and they took that picture. I remember that picture went viral. The man in that picture went missing and was found dead a couple days later. That wasn't fascism? And it's not ironic to me how easily they did that with them, and now we're seeing what's going on with the government kidnapping and deporting all these activists that spoke out about Palestine. How they're easily able to, in unplain clothes, able to kidnap them in broad daylight in some of these cases, like seeing those videos. But like I said, to make that connection, they got the groundwork for that being okay. Them rolling back DEIA initiatives, they laid that groundwork back in 2020 because they were doing the performative acts of putting up Black Lives Matter everywhere and wearing kente cloth clothes and taking knees and doing all this interesting stuff. And when people called out on it, you were told we were overreacting. But now it's fashion because now everyone is being affected. And when I say everyone, I'm talking about now European Americans are now victim to it. They've always, and the irony is, the cruel irony is that they've always been victimized to it. But now that it is directly affecting them more now, we want to talk about fascism. Now we want to call a thing a thing. But we ignore all this history of that. Now you want to attack abortion rights and and making people forced to have children or be criminalized for having miscarriages or abortions and all these different things. But when they were sterilizing Black women in the South, especially Mississippi, where Black women and minority women are dying at a high rate in the maternity ward, in medical settings, period. Because it's interesting to see now who feels they need to rise to the occasion to fight. We need to come together and get out in these streets and protest. And we. Oh, you speak French now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but really, we've been fighting about this. We've been protesting it. We've been trying to see our humanity and see it forward and push forward. We've been fighting this. But now that it affects you, now we need a call to action. I do believe in the concept of duality, that basically two or multiple things can be true at the same time. So while I do think we do need to fight and show up and protest and use our tools to combat against the fascism that we see around us, I also feel we do need to call out the hypocrisy around it as well. We can't just skate over that and think you're going to be able to rally around, build community, and all of us come together and fight back. Like, no, you have to acknowledge both of those things. And speaking directly to my Black folks, we cannot soft life our way out of fascism either. Like I've talked about several times on this podcast, the Great Step Back, where people saw how our work was being taken advantage, and we decided, y'all going to cause this, y'all deal with this. While I do get that, and while I do get that we do need to pour into ourselves, we also have to understand that when they take these rules, when they take these freedoms, when they take these rights away, we are the first impacted. So we cannot just do nothing. So that's why even on my show, like with the different episodes I've covered, when we do step back, what are we stepping back into? We have to really fight back by pouring into ourselves and each other, by making sure we're mentally healthy, by building our communities with each other, by checking what our resources are, by highlighting the tools that we have through co-ops and learning different hobbies that can help build us up, by reading, by researching, by documenting, by telling the stories of the people who still here, collecting the knowledge, uplifting the people around us, and giving voices and giving their flowers so that this continues to push back. That is the way of fighting, but we can't afford to do nothing. Once again, with the concept of duality, Cory Booker made history earlier this week by breaking the record of giving the longest speech on the Senate floor that was once held by one of a racist Congress member who spoke out against the Civil Rights Bill. Ultimately became what gave Black people all the rights that we know that they're overturning, trying to overturn anyway. But anyway, he made history by doing that speech, and it definitely was intriguing to watch. But I see a two-sided of that coming on, of how once again Black people are the ones putting their lives to fight for a country that has had a very interesting relationship when it came to our rights. But then on the other end of that is the grounded critique of it being performative. The mediums that people tend to use to reach people can be performative, can be for a show, can entertain people. But what it is that makes it more is what happens in the grounds of that, what inspired that performativeness. I'm seeing conversation of people upset about people calling what he did performative and highlight on the fact that, you know, the importance of the arts and the way people reach people, which isn't fair good. But I also see that within that same speech, you know, he didn't talk about the ties of what is going on in America, how that is fueled by the genocides that are going on in not only Palestine, but they're also causing what's going on in the Congo, what is also going on in Sudan, what is also going on in Haiti, what's going on in Hawaii. And if I mispronounce that country, I really do charge it to my head and my heart. What's Papa? What's going on in Korea, South Korea in particular, with the new election, my point of bringing all those is that not realizing the imperialism that America has reaped on the world as well, and has led to what we're seeing now with the high cost and the unlivable wages and the lack of health care, and our goods and services going up, especially the mess with with these tariffs and how they are attacking the countries that are considered our allies, and we're tainting those relationships with that. But of course, at the end of the day, who are the ones that are going to get hit first? We are. That it really is bigger than what's going on around us. Not saying it doesn't matter, or one matters more than the other. All of this matters, but just showing how connected all these issues are. We have to be not only aware and acknowledge, but we also have to have the information of knowing and engaging and dealing with that. Speaking of black bodies being on the line, I have to, in that, it made me think of the discourse going on around Erykah Badu's outfit for the Billboard Awards. So for anybody who hasn't seen it or doesn't know, so pretty much during her performance honoring women in the music industry, Erykah Badu performed, and she came out in this brown kind of for like bodysuit, but the bodysuit had these very enhanced breasts and these very big hips, along with a very big butt. And you know, she was walking around and performing and gave this beautiful rendition of her song Annie Don't Wear No Panties, which is a classic of hers, and I love that song anyway. But it caused a lot of discourse because a lot of people took it and ran with it. And what we're starting to see once again with those sensationalized headlines and trying to be the clickbait, a lot of people said it was her critiquing the BBL culture, or for people who don't know, the Brazilian butler culture, where basically women are altering their bodies to have those features so that way they can have a certain status in the industry. And the truth behind that is, and one thing, if you know about Erykah Badu, when it comes to her performances from not only just the song she sings, but even in her outfits, all of them have a deeper purpose. So for one, to really relegate that to like this surface level, like I said, conversation about BBLs and all that, for one is ignorant of the fact of the culture of why BBLs have become such a popular thing. And in this time, you know, the BBL was considered a standard of not only beauty but of status. So if you had those curves, or the more curves you had, they saw how women were treated who had that. And they saw the status they were able to elevate to and the success they were able to have. So that's why women did that to their bodies. I do want to make a side point is how it's interesting, like with the BBL culture, how now all those people are now stripping away of that and going back to that thin, lean, blonde, straight hair when they were just copying like women's bodies with the BBLs. But my goal of saying that is that the high-top Venus of the world standard of beauty, that voluptuous women with curves, women with stomach, women with hips, women with butt, were actually universally seen as attractive. In some places, the bigger you were, the more wealthier you were seen and looked at, and that's why you will see, like, especially in like ancient art, you will see a lot of women with curves, with stomach. And to Erykah's outfit actually was to highlight the high-top Venus. And just to go into astrology just a little bit, so the planet Venus, which is, if you're not into astrology or energies, anything like that, but basically the planet of Venus is known for the energy it carries of, you know, femininity, of sensuality, sexuality, love, all those different kind of energies. And the high-top Venus also is known for the story of Sarah Bartman. And for anybody who doesn't know, Sarah Bartman was a woman who was kidnapped during slavery under the false pretenses of that she would basically be able to be in this modeling career, this acting career, based on how she looked, based on how her body was shaped in all those ways, that she was promised that she was going to have that kind of life, only to be trafficked, to be honest, be trafficked around Europe and France as an aphrodisiac, or basically sexualized and showing off her body to all these different people. And her story becomes even more tragic because not only of that life and that, but she ended up basically having to support herself. We consider now sex work, because that's all the time, the talent allow her to have. And that's all she really could do. All she knew to do. All she was allowed to do. And seeing the reality of what BBL culture has become, knowing where that comes from, there is a connection with all of that. Well, they don't have her official birth date, but I really do feel she was born around this time. Ancestral connection, thank y'all. But but yeah, I think that like around this she was born, so it makes sense. All of this is happening. And then of course when we talk about like women, especially the adultification of young girls, and how they're seen as fast, and especially when they early develop, and all those ways, all of that is tied and connected into this. And just once again, just the persecution of Black bodies, being on the front stage, being online, and how political just our presence is. We have to take control of that presence, and we have to be the ones in control of that presence. But once again, going back to that duality, are there times we ain't gonna want to fight? Absolutely. Are there times that we gonna feel weary and we're gonna be down, or we're gonna feel hopeless? Absolutely. Because I can imagine Ida B. Wells seeing another of those lynching pictures and being like, I can't do this. I can imagine her having that moment. I can imagine Harriet having that moment, like, man, I done ran back and forth. I need to sit down. I can imagine her not wanting to do when she was betrayed by her husband. She done saved her whole family, done brought them to freedom, go back for the love of her life to get her captured. The portrayal of not only that, but then the love of your life doing that, I guarantee you she had a moment where she was like, what am I doing? We actually witnessed Martin's moment because he talked about it. The moment where he realized, he talked about integrating into a burning house. The moment he realized his ideology and the way he was pushing was showing, especially when he was going against the Vietnam War, and he was starting to uplift the Poor People's Campaign and really pushing for that. He saw just the experiences of how quickly all those people who once with him turned on him. I knew he had that moment where he was like, really nigga? He probably never said that out loud, but I'm pretty sure he had that moment. I know Malcolm had that moment when the teacher that taught him all about of using his voice and spreading knowledge and speaking and talk, when he found out that this great leader that led him to Islam was an abuser, or when they were coming after him because he was such a major voice and would not stop speaking. The way the nation turned on him, I knew there was a moment in him. I can even go spiritually about it for a minute. I believe even Jesus had that moment. Based on the story and based on the way he was taught. Jesus was sent here to have that human experience while functioning in his godliness. When he finally realized what he had to do by dying on the cross, I guarantee you there was a moment that human part of Jesus was like, whoa, I have to do what now? I know there was a moment in all these people's lives that we talk about and that we uplift and that there was a moment they had to work through that. But what we are all so grateful for, and that in each of those cases, those people dug deep within themselves and realized and came to a reality of why it was important for them to do that. That ultimately they made that decision to still push forward and still go on. And some of them, if not all of them, paid the ultimate price for that. But they were willing to do that because they knew what they stood for. They knew they had to stand for, because if it's not them, who? But to get to that kind of realization with yourself, that groundness with yourself, that do take a lot. But we are all so proud and so lucky that they chose to do that. So now in these moments, when we see what is going on around us, to truly believe that there are better days ahead.
This feels like a sentencing. Chains around my feet and my hands. Although there has been no crime, life for many is so unkind. Working tirelessly to make it. Every hour spent is all left up to me. Just trying to feed my tribe, to provide a quality of life, increasing the overtime for less pay. Ha. Coming close to walking away. In those times you got to make it. So thankful it's true, baby, it's true. Brighter the days they seem to go. Nothing can dampen a deep mind, yeah. Always with you, home on my mind. All this love is so new. Taking measures to my love, my life. Making moves where our future will thrive. Ain't nothing that's stopping me. Nothing but to be free. And those times you got to make it. So thankful it's true, baby, it's true. Beep, 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 alright. Alright, alright. Beep, 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 alright. Alright, yeah. Beep, 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 alright. Right, yeah. Beep, 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 alright. Ha. Yeah. Keep it up with it, baby.
And that was the UK's own neo soul legend Omar with his latest single, Brighter the Days. So The Guardian did this amazing article documentary about what all went down with the Panthers, how their offspring, their children, are moving forward And one of the people they interviewed made a very powerful statement of saying that we are in a very interesting but yet beautiful time, because with all the chaos, with all the evil and uncertainty, it also shows that there is a ground for the most beautiful things to happen. Because while we're being more reliant on each other and really dipping into our hobbies and really nurturing our gifts, really pouring into each other, we're starting to do that on a much very collective level. And they don't know how to deal with that other than to act violent. And that's why they are getting violent. That's why they are starting to kidnap people. That's why they're enacting these same behaviors that they did all those years ago. That's why they know to do that, because that's what they done to handle it. But to echo this Panther Cub in this article, that at the same time, I truly do believe we are also in a period where beautiful things can come out of this. Like I've heard some other content creators say that we, especially talking about the Black experience, like we're ushering in a new renaissance of creativity, of collectiveness, of art. And I think we definitely can do that on a personal level, a communal level, and a world level, of showing the connectiveness of our activism, of our fight, of our love, of our support. And we will continue to do that. And I'm excited to see what come of that. But that doesn't happen until we get to that point of reflecting with ourselves and being grounded in what you stand for and what you are choosing to do next to ensure that that happens. Why I believe that so much, to be honest, is because I've seen that what happens with that within my podcast. Like I love my season 1, but this past season 2, I go back myself and listen to these episodes like I wasn't there, like I wasn't involved in it, and I look at just how much I've changed, how much I get inspired by listening to the people who I've interviewed. I can only imagine what will happen next, what my next interview would be, what my next show would be, what will happen in the world that I can cover next. You know, at this point of uncertainty, of confusion, of hate, of all that, going back to duality. While that is going on, goodness, love, happiness can also happen. We just have to pick our part and do our part in it. And if you don't know what your part looks like, do that work to find that out. And because you doing that work is you doing that part. Is you doing your part. Be constructive with your soft life. You are nurturing yourself to a wellness that you function so beautifully, so strongly, so powerfully, that you make the life you want happen. Okay? In the spirit of that, I'm going to take my own advice and take a moment to step back, reflect, and give you the best I can. So my next show will be on May 3rd. Okay? All right, y'all. Well, of course, if you want to connect with me, I am on all social media, specifically Facebook.com at Queen Lady AC. On Instagram and Threads, it is _ I am Lady AC. And on Twitter and X, it is all capital I am Lady AC. And I am on Substack, where I post the highlights from my episodes. And once again, Lady AC. So, until May 3rd, y'all, rest up, keep your head up, and be your best self. And I'll see you then.